St. Lucy's Day, also called the Feast of St. Lucy, is a Christian feast day celebrated on the 13th of December in Advent, commemorating St. Lucy, a 3rd-century martyr under the Diocletianic Persecution, who according to legend brought food and aid to Christians hiding in the catacombs, using a candle-lit wreath to light her way and leave her hands free to carry as much food as possible. Her feast once coincided with the Winter Solstice, the shortest day of the year before calendar reforms, so her feast day has become a festival of light. Falling within the Advent season, St. Lucy's Day is viewed as an event signaling the arrival of Christmastide, pointing to the arrival of the light of Christ in the calendar on Christmas Day. St. Lucy's Day is celebrated most commonly in Scandinavia, with the long dark winters, where it is a major feast day, and in Italy, with each emphasizing a different aspect of the story. In Scandinavia, where St. Lucy is called Santa Lucia in Norwegian, she is represented as a lady in a white dress and red sash with a crown, a wreath of candles on her head. In Norway, Sweden and Swedish-speaking regions of Finland, girls dressed as Lucy carry rolls and cookies in procession as songs are sung. Boys participate in the procession as well, playing different roles associated with Christmas. It is said that to vividly celebrate St. Lucy's Day will help one live the long winter days with enough light. A special devotion to St. Lucy is practiced in the Italian regions of Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, Veneto, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Trentino Alto Adige, in the north of the country, and Sicily, in the south, as well as in Croatian coastal region of Dalmatia, in Hungary and Croatia. A popular tradition on St. Lucy's Day involves planting wheat grains that will eventually be several centimeters high on Christmas, representing the Nativity. Origins. An inscription in Syracuse dedicated to Oskia mentioning St. Lucy's Day as a local feast dates back to the 4th century A.D., which states, Oskia, the irreproachable, lived a good and pure life for about 25 years, died on my St. Lucy's feast day. She for whom I cannot find appropriate words of praise. She was a Christian, faithful, perfection itself, full of thankfulness and gratitude. The feast of St. Lucy became a universal feast of the Church in the 6th century, commemorating the Christian martyr's death on the 13th of December 304 A.D. St. Lucy's Day appears in the sacramentary of Gregory as well as that of Bede, and Christian churches were dedicated to St. Lucy in Italy as well as in England. Later, Christian missionaries arrived in Scandinavia to evangelize the local population, carrying the commemoration of St. Lucy with them, and this story of a young girl bringing light in the midst of darkness no doubt held great meaning for people who, in the midst of a North Sea December, were longing for the relief of warmth and light. St. Lucy is one of the few saints celebrated by the overwhelmingly Lutheran Nordic people, Danes, Swedes, Finns and Norwegians, but also in USA and Canada and Italy. It is speculated that the St. Lucy's Day celebrations in Scandinavia alone may retain a few indigenous Germanic pagan, pre-Christian midwinter elements. Some of the practices associated with the feast of St. Lucy may predate the adoption of Christianity in that region. Unlike much of Scandinavian folklore and even religiosity is centered on the annual struggle between light and darkness. The Nordic observation of St. Lucy is first attested in the Middle Ages, and continued after the Protestant Reformation in the 1520s and 1530s. Although the modern celebration is only about 200 years old, it is likely that tradition owes its popularity in the Nordic countries to the extreme change in daylight hours between the seasons in this region. The pre-Christian holiday of Yule, or Jol, was the most important holiday in Scandinavia and Northern Europe. Originally the observance of the winter solstice, and the rebirth of the sun, it brought about many practices that remain in the Advent and Christmas celebrations today. The Yule season was a time for feasting, drinking, gift-giving and gatherings, but also the season of awareness and fear of the forces of the dark. The 13th of December. In Scandinavia this date was the longest night of the year, coinciding with winter solstice. This was due to the Julian calendar being employed at the time. The same can be seen in the poem A Nocturnal upon St. Lucy's Day, being the shortest day, by the English poet John Donne. While this does not hold for our current Gregorian calendar, a discrepancy of 8 days would have been the case in the Julian calendar during the 14th century, resulting in winter solstice falling on December 13th. With the original adoption of the Gregorian calendar in the 16th century, the discrepancy was 10 days and had increased to 11 days in the 18th century when Scandinavia adopted the new calendar, with winter solstice falling on December 9th. It is very difficult to tell the exact date of the winter solstice without modern equipment. The day itself is not visibly shorter than the several days leading up to and following it, and although the actual Julian date of winter solstice would have been on the December 15th or 14 at the time when Christianity was introduced to Scandinavia, December 13th could well have lodged in people's mind as being the shortest day. The choice of the 13th of December as St. Lucy's Day, however, obviously predates the 8-day era of the 14th century Julian calendar. This date is attested in the pre-Tridentic monastic calendar, probably going back to the earliest attestations of her life in the 6th and 7th centuries, and it is the date used throughout Europe. So, while the world changed from a Julian to a Gregorian calendar system, and hence acquired a new date for the winter solstice, St. Lucy's Day was kept at December 13th, and not moved to the 21. In the Roman Empire, the 25 of December date was celebrated as being the day when the sun was born, the birthday of Sol Invictus, as can be seen in the chronography of 354. This date corresponding to the date of the winter solstice. Early Christians considered this a likely date for the Saviour's nativity, as it was commonly held that the world was created on spring equinox, and that Christ had been conceived on that date, being born 9 months later on winter solstice. A Swedish source states that the date of i.e. December 13th predates the Gregorian, which implies that Lucia's Day was December 13th in the Julian calendar, which is equal to December 21st in the Gregorian i.e. now. Same source states use of the name Little Yule for the day, that it was among the most important days of the year, that it marked the start of Christmas month, and that with the move to the Gregorian calendar the date completely lost its appropriateness, significance. Lucy, Lusanatta, the Lucy night, was marked in Sweden December 13th. Then Lucy, a female being with evil traits, like a female demon or witch, was said to ride through the air with her followers, called Lucifada. This itself might be an echo of the myth of the wild hunt, called Oskorea in Scandinavia, found across northern, western and central Europe. Between Lucy night and Yule, trolls and evil spirits, in some accounts also the spirits of the dead, were thought to be active outside. It was believed to be particularly dangerous to be out during Lucy night. According to tradition, children who had done mischief had to take special care, since Lucy could come down through the chimney and take them away, and certain tasks of work in the preparation for Yule had to be finished, or else the Lucy would come to punish the household. The tradition of Lusivaka, to stay awake through the Lusanat to guard oneself and the household against evil, has found a modern form through throwing parties until daybreak. Another company of spirits was said to come riding through the night around Yule itself, journeying through the air over land and water. Saint Lucy. According to the traditional story, Lucy was born of rich and noble parents about the year 283. Her father was of Roman origin, but died when she was 5 years old, leaving Lucy and her mother without a protective guardian. Although no sources for her life story exist other than in hagiographies, St. Lucy, whose name Lucia refers to, light, is believed to have been a Sicilian saint who suffered a sad death in Syracuse, Sicily around AD 310. Jacobus de Voragine's Golden Legend, first compiled in the 13th century, a widespread and influential compendium of saints' biographies, records her story thus: she was seeking help for her mother's long-term illness at the shrine of St. Agnes, in her native Sicily, when an angel appeared to her in a dream beside the shrine. As a result of this, Lucy became a devout Christian, refused to compromise her virginity in marriage, and was denounced to the Roman authorities by the man she would have wed. According to the legend, she was threatened to be taken to a brothel if she did not renounce her Christian beliefs, but were unable to move her, even with 1,000 men and 50 oxen pulling. Instead, they stacked materials for a fire around her and set light to it, but she would not stop speaking, insisting that her death would lessen the fear of it for other Christians and bring grief to non-believers. One of the soldiers stuck a spear through her throat to stop these denouncements, but to no effect. Soon afterwards, the Roman consulate in charge was hauled off to Rome on charges of theft from the state and beheaded. St. Lucy was able to die only when she was given the Christian sacrament. All the details of her life are the conventional ones associated with female martyrs of the early 4th century. John Henry Blunt views her story as a Christian romance similar to the acts of other virgin martyrs. In another story, St. Lucy was working to help Christians hiding in the catacombs during the terror under the Roman Emperor Diocletian, and in order to bring with her as many supplies as possible, she needed to have both hands free. She solved this problem by attaching candles to a wreath on her head. There is little evidence that the legend itself derives from the folklore of Northern Europe, but the similarities in the names and the date of her festival, December 13th, suggest that two separate traditions may have been brought together in the modern-day celebrations in Scandinavia. St. Lucy is often depicted in art with a palm as the symbol of martyrdom. Celebration. Italy. Catholic celebrations take place on the 13th of December and in May. St. Lucia, whose name comes from the Latin word lux, meaning light, links with this element and with the days growing longer after the winter solstice. St. Lucy is the patron saint of the city of Syracuse. On December 13th, a silver statue of St. Lucy containing her relics is paraded through the streets before returning to the Cathedral of Syracuse. Sicilians recall a legend that holds that a famine ended on her feast day when ships loaded with grain entered the harbor. Here, it is traditional to eat whole grains instead of bread on December 13th. This usually takes the form of cucchiaia, a dish of boiled wheat berries often mixed with ricotta and honey, or sometimes served as a savory soup with beans. St. Lucy is also popular among children in some regions of northeastern Italy, namely Trentino, East Lombardy, parts of Veneto, parts of Emilia-Romagna, and all of Friuli, where she is said to bring gifts to good children and coal to bad ones the night between December 12th and 13th. According to tradition, she arrives in the company of a donkey and her escort, Castaldo. Children are asked to leave some coffee for Lucia, a carrot for the donkey and a glass of wine for Castaldo. They must not watch Santa Lucia delivering these gifts, or she will throw ashes in their eyes, temporarily blinding them. Croatia and Hungary. In Hungary and Croatia, A popular tradition on St. Lucy's Day involves planting wheat grains that will eventually be several centimeters high on Christmas. This new wheat serves as symbolic of the new life born in Bethlehem, the Nativity, and a candle is sometimes placed near the new plant as a symbol of the light of Christ. Malta. Santa Lucia is the patron saint of the villages of Mtafa and Santa Lucia. On the 13th of December, Malta also celebrates Republic Day. In the Nordic countries in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland, Lucy is venerated on December 13th in a ceremony where a girl is elected to portray Lucia, wearing a white gown with a red sash and a crown of candles on her head. She walks at the head of a procession of women, each holding a candle. The candles symbolize the fire that refused to take St. Lucy's life when she was sentenced to be burned. The women sing a Lucia song while entering the room, to the melody of the traditional Neapolitan song Santa Lucia. The Italian lyrics describe the view from Santa Lucia in Naples. The various Scandinavian lyrics are fashioned for the occasion, describing the light with which Lucia overcomes the darkness. Each Scandinavian country has lyrics in the native tongues. After finishing this song, the procession sings Christmas carols or more songs about Lucia. Sweden. The Swedish lyrics to the Neapolitan song Santa Lucia have traditionally been either Latin Gartunga fjat or Sancta Lucia, use Clara Hagring. There is also a modern version with simpler lyrics for children, Utar Morktar Kal. Although St. Lucy's Day is not an official holiday in Sweden, it is a popular occasion in Sweden. At many universities, students hold big formal dinner parties since this is the last chance to celebrate together before most students go home to the families for Christmas. The modern tradition of having public processions in the Swedish cities started in 1927 when a newspaper in Stockholm elected an official Lucy for Stockholm that year. The initiative was then followed around the country through the local press. Today, most cities in Sweden appoint a Lucy every year. Schools elect a Lucy and her maids among the students, and a national Lucy is elected on national television from regional winners. The regional Lucies will visit shopping malls, old people's homes and churches, singing and handing out ginger nut cookies. Guinness World Records has noted the Lucy procession in Ericsson Globe in Stockholm was the largest in the world, with 1,200 participants from Adolf Fredriks Music School, Stockholm's Music Gymnasium and Stockholm Länsbläsersymfonika. Boys take part in the procession, playing different roles associated with Christmas. Some may be dressed in the same kind of white robe, but with a cone-shaped hat decorated with golden stars, called stjärngossar. Some may be dressed up as tomtenissar, carrying lanterns, and some may be dressed up as gingerbread men. They participate in the singing and also have a song or two of their own, usually Staffanstordrang, which tells the story about St. Stephen, the first Christian martyr, caring for his 5 horses. Some trace the rebirth of the Lucy celebrations in Sweden to the tradition in German Protestant families of having girls dressed as angelic Christ children, handing out Christmas presents. The Swedish variant of this white-dressed Kindchen Jesus or Christkind was called Kinkenjess, and started to appear in upper-class families in the 18th century on Christmas Eve with a candle wreath in her hair, handing out candy and cakes to the children. Another theory claims that the Lucy celebration evolved from old Swedish traditions of star boys and white-dressed angels singing Christmas carols at different events during Advent and Christmas. In either case, the current tradition of having a white-dressed woman with candles in her hair appearing on the morning of the Lucy Day started in the area around Vannon in the late 18th century and spread slowly to other parts of the country during the 19th century. A special baked bun, lassakat, made with saffron and in use as early as November, is a very popular Christmas tradition. Since 2008 there has been some controversy over males as Lucy, with one male who was elected Lucy at a high school being blocked from performing, and another performing together with a female. In another case, a 6-year-old boy was not allowed to appear with a Lucy crown because the school said it couldn't guarantee his safety. Finland. The Finnish celebrations have been historically tied to Swedish culture and the Swedish-speaking Finns. They observe Lucy at Argon a week before the winter solstice. St. Lucy is celebrated as a beacon of brightness in the darkest time of year. The first records of St. Lucy celebrations in Finland are from 1898, and the first large celebrations came in 1930, a couple of years after the popularization of the celebrations in Sweden. The St. Lucy of Finland has been elected since 1949, and she is crowned in the Helsinki Cathedral. Local street Lucys are elected in almost every place where there is a Swedish populace in Finland. The Finnish-speaking population has also lately begun to embrace the celebrations. Denmark. In Denmark, the Day of Lucy was first celebrated on December 13, 1944. The tradition was directly imported from Sweden by initiative of Frans Wendt, Secretary of Forning in Norden, as an attempt to bring light in a time of darkness. Implicitly, it was meant as a passive protest against German occupation during the Second World War, but it has been a tradition ever since. Although the tradition is imported from Sweden, it differs somewhat in that the church celebration has always been strongly centered on Christianity, and it is a yearly local event in most churches in conjunction with Christmas. Schools and kindergartens also use the occasion to mark the event as a special day for children on one of the final days before the Christmas holidays, but it does not have much impact anywhere else in society. There are also a number of additional historical traditions connected with the celebration, which are not widely observed. The night before, candles are lit and all electrical lights are turned off, and on the Sunday closest to December 13th, Danes traditionally attend church. The traditional Danish version of the Neapolitan song is not especially Christian in nature, the only Christian concept being Sancta Lucia. Excerpt: Nu beres lyset frem, stolt parding krone. Runt om my husog hjem, sang and skal tone. Quote, the Christian version used in churches is Sancta Lucia from 1982, by priest Holger Lisner. St. Lucy's Day is celebrated also in the Faroe Islands. Norway. Historically, Norwegians considered what they called lassenatten the longest night of the year, and no work was to be done for that night until Christmas. Spirits, gnomes and trolls roamed the earth. Lucy, a feared enchantress, punished anyone who dared work. Legend also has it that farm animals talked to each other on lassenatten, and that they were given additional feed on this longest night of the year. The lassenatt, the night of December 13th, was largely forgotten in Norway at the beginning of the 20th century, though still remembered as an ominous night, and also celebrated in some areas, especially in mid-central and eastern England. It was not until after World War II that the modern celebration of Lucia in Norway became adopted on a larger scale. It is now again observed all over the country. Like the Swedish tradition, and unlike the Danish, Lucy is largely a secular event in Norway, and is observed in kindergartens and schools. However, it has in recent years also been incorporated in the Advent liturgy in the Church of Norway. The boys are often incorporated in the procession, staging as magi with tall hats and star staffs. Occasionally, anthems of of St. Stephen are taken in on behalf of the boys. For the traditional observance of the day, school children form processions through the hallways of the school building carrying candles, and hand out lussicat buns. While rarely observed at home, parents often take time off work to watch these school processions in the morning, and if the child should be chosen Lucia, it is considered a great honor. Later on in the day, the procession usually visits local retirement homes, hospitals, and nursing homes. The traditional Norwegian version of the Neapolitan song is just like the Danish, not especially Christian in nature, the only Christian concept being Sancta Lucia. Excerpt: Svartsenka natten seg, I storlog stew. Solen har gat sin vei, sky gene trua. St. Lucia. In St. Lucia, a tiny island in the Caribbean named after its patron saint, St. Lucy, December 13th is celebrated as National Day. The National Festival of Lights and Renewal is held the night before the holiday, in honor of St. Lucy of Syracuse, the Saint of Light. In this celebration, decorative lights are lit in the capital city of Castries. Artisans present decorated lanterns for competition, and the official activities end with a fireworks display. In the past, the jour ouvert celebration has continued into the sunrise of the 13th of December. United States. In the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which is the successor church to hundreds of Scandinavian and German Lutheran congregations, St. Lucy is treated as a commemoration on December 13th, in which red vestments are worn. Usually, the Sunday in Advent closest to December 13th is set aside for St. Lucy, in which the traditional Scandinavian procession is observed. Venezuela. The town of Mucuqui is in Merida State. Venezuela has chosen as the patron saints St. Lucy and St. Benedict the Moor. Patron saint festivities are held during the month of December.